under the law of Sorsted Aaron. So that was on that day, this became the law, and that was game over as regards.
Okay, now I have me thinking again. So if we go back to...
No, I'm going to finish now.
Okay, go on.
I'm going to stop now at that. Okay. We can pause it now. Yeah. Urging of the public. People were sending me private messages and also comments on Facebook like, what can we do, blah, blah, blah. And I had been contemplating this for probably at least 6 months. I spent about 1,000 hours of research and thinking before I would, would say pen to paper and do an important document. I wanted to be sure that I had everything correct so that the people did really have the power that they were going to say that they had in this declaration. Okay? So, following the 26th of April march and seeing a number of protests over illegal immigration and a number of other things, I could see that the situation was tensing up. Families, children being taken away, huge waiting lists in hospitals, everything. So I then researched all the legislation, let's say, that would be applicable to each Department of State. Originally, in 1924, started out with 11 Departments of State, and it's now morphed into about 15, okay? So I wanted to determine where there was a sort of a point in time where when things were moved forward, that they definitely became totally invalid. And that point in time is the Electoral Act 1963. Between the 1st of January 1938 and the commencement of the Electoral Act by a statutory instrument, there are some valid laws, but there are also other laws that are not valid. Okay, now, first of all, I had to establish where is the power for the people. Okay, where does that power come from? So, up here, I'll just drop this down. So, at the beginning, we incorporated, Andrew and a few of us that signed this, we spoke about this, and we wanted to bring in the two traditions, no discrimination, the whole island, right? So we incorporated this idea. I then wrote from people's feelings as to what we needed to do. So we put the kind of flag of the 4 provinces. And so this declaration is to from the people, right, to reaffirm the diversity of identities and traditions and to assert our inalienable, indefeasible sovereign powers as guardians of the nation. Okay, so in other words, inalienable and indefeasible. They can't be cast off, they can't be divided up. And so in the first articulation here, let me see, I'll leave this over here. And I'll let, can you hold it there? Yeah? Okay, yeah. Okay. I just have a little bit here. So, now, what we did with this is we felt that this had to be proclaimed to the whole world. that we the people were asserting our power over the state, and that we were the ultimate internal sovereign authority over the state. But it goes further in the fact that we have now become also the external sovereign authority over the state because of what I explained to you there, where Bertie Ahern and Dermot Ahern are not empowered under the Ministers and Secretaries Act to sign the treaties. So there's been many treaties from the Third Amendment of the Constitution up that are invalid. All right. Now, so we say henceforth from this day of the 31st of May 2025, let it be known to all people, nations, and governments in this earthly world that the undersigned declare and reaffirm our commitment as the constituent part of we the people. In other words, the initial signers. But then at the end, we've included everyone else. Anybody here can sign. There's a clause in there that brings them in. Although we signed initially, the clause that's in the 8th articulation allows anyone of we the people who wants to sign. Okay? And in operation from the 29th of December, enacted by the people on the 1st of July 1937, and in operation as in from the 29th of December 1937, after a plebiscite vote by our ancestors who did thereby adopt an act and give to ourselves this Constitution. We didn't give anything to the state. We said to the state, you do what we say. We don't do what you say. This is what the Constitution says. Okay? We're employing you, designating you as rulers to run the state, to run the organs. But we're not there to take dictation from you as superior to the people. This was one of the great things that was written into this Constitution, and it's probably one of the few, if any, that has this clause in it. Okay? So, and then it goes on, the Irish nation hereby affirms its inalienable, indefeasible, and sovereign right to choose its own form of government. So here's the nation now. Not the politicians. Remember that. Milan Martin, Leo Varadkar, Harris, and whoever else were there, they made up their own form of rotating government. The people didn't give them permission to do that in any mandate of the Constitution. Okay, so to determine its relations with other nations and to develop its life political, economic, and cultural in accordance with its own genius and traditions. Bear in mind now neutrality. They don't have any right to do what they want to do because the EU is urging them to do it. Okay. And whereas lately the sovereign people did further proclaim in Article 3 that in both jurisdictions of the island, this is where we're trying to bring in nationalist, unionist, whatever tradition on the island, to give them a voice in this too, to not leave them out, okay? That are shared between those jurisdictions may be established by their respective responsible authorities for stated purposes and may exercise powers and functions in respect of all or any part of the island. That's a very important clause in here, because as we go down through this, you're going to see that we're calling for the people to establish plebiscite councils, commissions, and then a vote. Okay? Where it's basically one man, one vote. You don't have to be in a political party or any other thing. Okay? So, and that's to, in other words, widen the right of people to feel inclusive, to determine what's good for this whole island. Okay? Now I'm going to stop it just there. okay, then I'll